Just give me one more second, and we'll be ready to start.
Okay.
Uh, Hello, this is Awesome Sauce Radio. I'm your host, Blind Adam. Uh, if you can, please check out the Big Apple Comic Con. The next Big Apple Comic Con is December 17th at the New Yorker Hotel in New York City from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Great convention, great guests. Uh, Best Some of the best dealers in the country. Tell them Blind Adam sent you. New York Blind duh, BigAppleComicCon.com. Today's episode, we have an amazing guest. She is the writer on Black Widow, Captain Marvel. She is the creator of Jeff the Land Shark. Uh, Hopefully, Marvel will actually have some, coolness and give her a solo Gwenpool series. Kelly Thompson, how are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm good.
Uh, so can you please tell my audience who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Kelly Thompson. I write comics. Adam said a bunch of the most recent ones. I do an It's Jeff book with the incredible cartoonist Gurihiru. That's for Marvel Unlimited only. It's sort of a silent strip, very
I
sort of
wish they would animate that.
I think there's really good hope for it. It's a very popular character. The reaction to him has been huge. And when we're seeing things like it's Groot showing up, I think there's a fair chance that could happen for him in the future. But these things take time. He's only a few years old, so.
Definitely. I mean, I just wish. Uh, you see, a lot of the Marvel Limited stuff is not made for people with visual impairments in mind.
Yeah.
So, as is most of the comic book industry. So, it's just always having. Thank God for motion comics on YouTube, but I always have to. Can you read this to me, please? Begging all my
Yeah.
friends. It's like, can you just? Your job is to read me comics.
I know a lot of people really like those motion comics. I wasn't that big a fan just because I understand the impulse behind it, but it just, I prefer comics to it, and then I prefer animation to it. You know what I mean? It's sort of a half measure.
I agree with you. Like I said, until they put an actual comic book in Braille,
Yeah.
that's like unfortunately for me right now. That's you'd see, but someone's reading it to me and describing what the art is to me,
Yeah.
or I'm using what I can remember from what I could see, and just doing the best I can. So anytime I can listen to something, it's a real blessing from God.
Yeah, I bet. Can I ask how does that work? I obviously don't want to be
No,
insensitive,
no,
but
it's fine.
I'm fascinated. I love that your love of comics has sort of transcended, some things getting in the way of you being able to enjoy that, like
um,
as easily as you may be used to. But I sort of love that you're still doing it. So how does that work for you?
Basically, it's I use a computer that talks. That with a system called JAWS for Windows.
Uh huh.
Uh, you know, most things are somewhat easy to learn, and you know, Matt Murdock's best friend was Foggy Nelson, and he basically had Foggy Nelson do everything.
I mean, you definitely have a great hero in Daredevil for sure.
Yeah,
You're
I
right.
mean, I'll never forget this. Back in the sixth or maybe it was the seventh grade, right after I had retinitis pigmentosa, which is my eye condition. It's a national burning out of the retina. One of my best friends, she came over to me and goes, "What are you crying about?" And I, told her the whole thing, and she pulled out the first appearance of Elektra, and she goes, "I don't want you to feel sorry for yourself. There's a blind superhero."
Wow.
And it was love at first sight.
Wow. What a story. That's amazing.
You know,
So a program that will read you the dialogue, it also reads you a description of
Sometimes,
visually, or
yeah,
no?
sometimes it would be like, it will give me a play-by-play. Like, when I watch stuff on Netflix, they have the audio descriptive, which, will be like a scene in She-Hulk. It'll be
Yeah,
like, and Jennifer is now walking in a door.
right.
And, you know, and of course there's so many YouTube channels that review comics, and where you got your start, actually, CBR.
Hmm.
I read all theirs there a couple times a week.
Oh, that's good.
Uh,
That's good. Is there anything comics can do that's not? I mean,
I think they're trying their best, and
okay.
two they I think until they they can see that they have a market for it.
Hmm.
You know, I'm like one guy who's been, yeah, this you guys should put something in Braille.
Yeah.
But I I know there's a bunch of Neil Gaiman books that are in Braille, so I guess I'll start with that because you know most comic books are 32 pages in print, so it would probably be about 100 and something pages in Braille,
Wow. Wow.
even if you're using grade 2.
So a full Braille comic book, man, that's an incredible amount of pages. So that would be describing the panels in incredible detail.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I thought about how you could do the art in it, and I still haven't thought that far ahead yet. I'm actually just do something self-published just to experiment with it
Yeah.
and
Well,
walk around like New York Comic Con or San Diego and go to all the publishers. This is what it would look like.
yeah, I have to say, your passion for comics, for the medium, is incredible. I mean, I deal with people every day who have zero appreciation for what they are and how powerful they are and how wonderful and,
Oh,
unique they are.
this medium taught me the most valuable lesson that I've lived my life by.
Wow,
You
that's
don't need
really
sight to have a vision.
wow, that's amazing, Adam. I'm really sort of in awe. But I'm sure you get asked this kind of stuff a lot.
Yeah, I'm used to it, as you can
I don't
tell.
want to be. I don't want to be one of those people.
No, no, this is not like James O'Barr, who I was at a convention and he was just like in front of like a crowd of people at his table. He's like, I was excited. I was gonna interview him right there at the con for like one or two questions because it's the Crow. It's
Uh-huh.
like, wow, it's a blind comic book fan. How the hell do you read comics? And I'm like, son of a bitch.
But at least it's James O'Barr, what an iconic.
Yeah, I know. All of a sudden, I was like, I was like, okay. I was hoping just to be a fan, just be a fan for 2 minutes. And they're like, don't. And then the promoter of the convention was like, don't worry about him. He was hung at that point in the morning. He was still hung over. So what was it like working for CBR?
It was great when I was there. I think reviewing has, it was never that lucrative, and it was always, as it is now, still, I believe, a labor of love for people who do it. So I never like to swing on people who are doing that, having been one of them, having seen how it sort of grinds you up a little bit. But I do think sometimes the review quality has fallen off a little bit, and I think some of that just comes from companies like CBR being bought up by much larger companies. It's just the thing that we see happen a lot.
Oh yeah,
So they have a lot more interest and focus in clickbait articles that connect movies to the comics and things like that. And listen, I get it. You gotta make the money to keep the site open.
exactly.
So
I've seen a lot more top 10 lists from them as of late.
yeah, yeah.
It's just
Whenever
like I was uh, doing some research on something for a friend of mine. And it's like the top 10 kinkiest Spider-Man comics of all time. And then there was like 8 other top 10 lists. I was like, okay.
yeah, sometimes they're not the best ideas, but I think my guy Brian Cronin is still there, who does those incredible.
Is he the one who does all the history stuff? All the
Yep,
urban legends?
yep, all the history stuff.
I love his.
He's great.
In fact, I've mentioned him on on the podcast a couple of times because I just love her. I love that column the most.
He gave me my first column at CBR when Comics Should Be Good was sort of an arm of CBR. She Has No Head, and I was basically just writing about women in comics, characters, creators, whatever, women's issues, all sorts of stuff, and it was a great start for me. And nothing was a better education for me, even though I went to SCAD and got a degree in comics. Nothing was a better education than writing about comics, writing op-eds about them, and especially writing reviews, because you just learn a lot about why something works and why it doesn't work, and thinking about how you would try to fix it, if you were in charge of that book. It taught me so much, and it's something anyone can do, for free without having to go to school or anything, and you can learn so much that way.
Right. Now, I find your first professional work very fascinating. What are some of your fondest memories of writing Jim in the holograms?
That was really just super fun all around. Like, it was very positive and inclusive, and Hasbro, for my first thing out to be something where you had to work with a giant corporation, but they were really open and they were really positive, and I had a great editors, and I was working especially for that first volume, and then she came back for the third volume. Sophie Campbell's my good friend, and she's an incredible
I love her
talent.
art.
Oh, she's amazing. So, it was really a wonderful experience to have that be your first experience for comics. And we got a huge run considering it was, a little cult gem in the
I need to apologize. I just discovered that this was a comic when I was doing research on you.
Yeah, it's we went for like 26 issues, and then we had like 2 specials and 2 annuals, and we also had a spin-off Misfits series, miniseries, and we did like a little crossover event thing for 6 issues. Like, whoever thought we'd
Oh
be
wow, I'm gonna have to check this stuff out.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun.
That's awesome. So, what was it like transitioning, say, from being a reviewer from CBR to actually, uh, professionally writing comics at that point?
It was great. I mean, it was what I wanted. I mean, as much as I enjoyed my time with CBR and it taught me a lot, I'd always wanted to write comics. I never saw myself as a journalist. I don't think I ever was a journalist. I was a reviewer and sort of an essayist sometimes, but that wasn't really what I saw for myself. So I was excited to get into it. I think I learned a lot, and because I was writing a column about women in comics called She Has No Head, and it was sometimes controversial, it really it thickened my skin up pretty well for what I was going to encounter as a woman writing comics. So that was a good thing too. But yeah, it was a great transition. I'm really excited, and I feel very lucky that I was able to make it happen.
That's awesome, Sauce. Uh, how did Jeff the Land Shark come about?
Well, so the real story on Jeff is that Stefano Caselli drew the first arc of West Coast Avengers, and we had MODOK, although sort of Brodock, um, he made these land sharks to attack Venice. And when I saw the art come in from Stefano, one of the sharks in the background looked like very concerned, like he didn't want to be there. And that was sort of the inspiration for the idea of what if one of these sharks, was sort of had agency and like was more than just a random monster sent to attack a town. And it was sort of that plus my cats were the inspiration for what Jeff became. And Daniele Di Nicolo designed him when he showed up in the next arc, and then he was very popular. People were big fans, and so I took him over with me to Deadpool.
That's one of my favorite Deadpool runs of all time.
Wow, thank you so much.
Nah, seriously, because Deadpool's my second favorite character because his best friend was Blind Owl.
Oh, that's great. I was thinking it was just because he has his own problems. But
Yeah, but no, it's just like, hey, he has his own problems, and one of his best friends is just as a blind, and I was like, all right, cool. When I was having my own issues with making friends, things like that. Said, okay, just open up your mouth and talk, and maybe someone will talk back.
run all about monsters and stuff was because we wanted to talk about what makes a monster and is that even really a thing? You know, it's acts. It's not how you look or how you can handle this, that, or the other. It's, you know, the quality of your soul, sort of, you know?
Yeah, so basically, I love your West Coast Avengers run.
Thank you.
I like the team. Went into the choices in picking the team that you used.
It was actually quite a fight about that. Tom and Elena and I um, didn't always agree. There was a version of West Coast Avengers, that reboot that was much more traditional. Like we talked about that, but we knew we wanted to sort of spin it out of the Hawkeye book, which had like a great little cult following, but wasn't, you know, some huge hit. And so in the end, they really wanted to keep as much of the DNA of that as we could, and we knew we were going to do a sort of mockumentary style with confessionals and things like that.
A very real world vibe you had with it, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, and I think that format lent itself to sort of the younger characters.
Yeah, let's
So,
see. I was sold because it had Gwenpool in it.
well, Gwenpool was the one they really had to convince me on. I was nervous about Quentin Quire because he was just so powerful on the team, and we already had one of those in America, and so I was just a little worried about how he was going to fit. But my worry about Gwenpool was I wasn't really sure how her powers worked when she wasn't in a solo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that solo, Chris Hastings stuff, it's really brilliant. It's really sort of mind bendingly creative. It really plays with the actual form in fantastic ways. It's very hard to follow up. And
Oh yeah, especially that unbelievable Glenpool one was just so well done.
yeah, I mean, even though as a writer he left it in an incredibly generous place where there were lots of avenues for writers to take, like I could totally see. I mean, I'd be a little afraid to do it because his run was so good, but I could totally see how someone could step into a new Gwenpool solo. But what I was concerned about was how does she really fit in a team? Like, do her powers work the same way? How does that not? If she's not the star, how does that work? And through me being worried about that, we actually came up with what I thought was a brilliant idea, and I was really excited about exploring it. I just wish we got to go there further, which is that when she's not the star, those powers are less effective. You know, she can't completely control the narrative she's in when she's in an ensemble, and so that was sort of what we were driving towards. Not that she didn't have any powers, and you know, not that she wasn't incredible, but just that by the very nature of being in a team, her powers functioned a little differently. You know, there was no like moving panel borders or just ending the book if she wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was really excited about that. I don't know that it's where Marvel would have wanted to go long term, but we were going to play with it and have some really good fun.
And then of course you got to stick around with Kate Bishop, which you really do have a nice voice for.
Thank you. I enjoy Kate. She's one of the things that I like about her is, I mean, she's incredibly positive and lovely, which is not really my personality, so that's fun. But she's not a genius, you know? She's not a genius. She's not invulnerable. She can't toss you into the sun or survive if she gets thrown into the sun. And I like the relatability of that, you know? That's fun to write. That's fun to problem solve around. Sometimes it's less fun to problem solve, you know, Omega level characters if you're not in an event, you know?
Yeah. What did you think of the Hawkeye TV show?
I thought it was really good. I think those things are always a little tricky. You know, like to view as a creator, you know, you see your stuff there and you feel certain ways about it, but I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I thought they captured a lot of what's magical in the books. I thought Haley Steinfeld is an incredible cast for Kate. She just nailed it. I think I think Marvel.
I like the fact that it was a nice deal to bring back the greatest villain in comic books, and then Wilson Fisk,
Oh yeah.
which
Well,
I knew was coming because a friend of mine is the blind consultant to Charlie Cox.
oh wow, that's
And
cool.
he's like, hey, I'll tell you what's gonna happen, but I need you to give me a handshake NDA. I was like, all right, stretch. You know,
It's always so cool when an actor like Vincent D'Onofrio wants to come back and do Marvel work. Like, what a compliment, right?
oh yeah,
What a compliment of the character. It's awesome.
yeah. It's like even watching MODOK in animated form with Patton Oswalt's voice. I was like, this is a blast.
Yeah, if I had to bet where Jeff would make sense to pull up first, it would actually be in MODOK.
Oh yeah.
People were asking me if I wanted to see him in Deadpool, and I was like, well, I do, but Deadpool is very quick to kill people, so I don't know if that's a great idea.
I was like, they kind of like respectively just get along to a point, but I can see them having a match to see who kills who first. Uh, so, can you explain to me what Dark Cloak is about? I saw that on your Substack.
Sure. It's a mystery, sort of a sci-fi fantasy blend, but it's got detectives at the center. So you're sort of in a fantasy world where the conceit is that, all the beings in the world came together to vanquish the great evil, and they did that, and now they all have to get along in the last city on Earth, and it's not going so great. you know, People hate each other, people have, centuries, millennia old grudges and things like that, and so you still have people getting murdered, and you still need law and order to like become a thing, and so black cloaks are basically detectives in that world, and it's the book sort of starts off with a murder and sort of a mystery from there.
That's fascinating. Who's the artist on that?
It's drawn by Meredith. It's co-created and drawn by Meredith McLaren. She does art and colors, and she's amazing.
Yeah, and I also know that you guys have some really nice variants for that too.
Yeah, it's going really well.
You know, what's it like having a Jeff Takal variant?
Oh, I am such a Jeff Dickel fan for sure. I've gotten to have him on a few of my Marvel projects, but you're not that in control. I mean, maybe some writers are, but I'm not that in control of who's on my covers for my Marvel stuff. So, once you're doing some creator owned, you're like, ooh, who are the people that I love or that I haven't been able to get to work with yet? So you start reaching.
Yeah, because I noticed there was that, and there was a Peach Momoko as well.
Yes. Oh man, I love Peach. She did such like a sweet piece. Very cool. And then Tula Late she actually did two for us
Oh
because
wow!
one of her one of her early drafts, she was like, I actually really like that one if you wanted to use it as well, and so she let us use it for a clean dress variant. So
That's
very
all
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, and then we also have a Christian Ward cover. I think that's the last one, and we haven't showed that off yet, but I'll probably be showing it off soon.
All right, cool. Like I said, I follow you on Substack, so
Well, thank you.
yeah. Like I said, I like to do in-depth research for my interviews, so I discover. And unfortunately, doing that it costs me money because I discover things as I fan. Like
Yeah,
I didn't know this existed. This sounds awesome.
that happened to me a lot, especially when I was writing She Has No Head, because I was always looking for books that I could talk about on the column, and the column for years and years didn't pay me anything, and then toward the end it paid me like a tiny little amount. But I spent so much money on books over those years. I mean, it was completely a negative cost adventure.
Yeah,
But
so eventually I just.
it taught me a lot. It exposed me to tons of work, and it eventually helped me break in. So
Oh,
no complaints.
yeah, exactly. Uh, so if you can create any Avengers lineup you'd want to create, who would be on your team?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I think I'd go. This is going to be unpopular,
Okay.
but one of my favorite Avengers runs is when Bendis was doing it.
Yeah.
Not everybody loves that, but it's really one of the first times I sort of fell in love with Spider-Man, which is a really backwards way to fall in love with Spider-Man. I mean, everyone I know who loves Spider-Man loves him way before that, but I just really found him really funny in that environment, and it was nice that he had people to bounce off of and that he didn't always have to be in his head, you know? Anyway, so maybe Luke Cage, Monica Rambeau, maybe Hawkeye, depending on the team, Clint, um, um, Spider-Man, like I was saying, maybe Spider-Man, or maybe he's sometimes coming in, kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess I think he works best on the Avengers as not a full-time member,
Yeah.
but more that reservist.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. You're right, reservist.
You
That's
know,
it. I think you need either a Tony or a Cap or a Thor, one of those guys in there, to give it that sort of classic gravitas that you want.
yeah, sure. I always go with Cap.
But I always love to throw in some wild cards.
Just because since Marvel unfortunately isn't doing anything with the character that I can see anyways, can we just have Squirrel Girl take over the part of Jarvis for a little bit, just to have her in a book?
I'd rather see her doing something else, but I feel you. I can understand that for sure.
Ever since that last Unbeatable Squirrel Girl run ended, it just feels like Marvel hasn't done anything with her yet.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably looking for the right thing. I mean, it's a little bit the Gwenpool problem, right? I mean, you just have the perfect creator on the perfect book for a while, and it's like, it's honestly a home run, and it's both hard to follow that up, and also, even when those things are home runs, they don't sell as well as Wolverine or Spider-Man or what. It's hard out there. It's hard out there on a solo book. It's a tough row.
Yeah.
I'd probably also put someone like Spider-Woman on the team, maybe. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Bit of old, bit of new. Mix it up a little bit.
Sweet. What advice would you give to someone trying to conquer writer's block?
Everyone I know says go for a walk. I don't do that. I do sometimes take a shower. If I had a pool, I would definitely swim. One of the things I've found, if sort of getting out of your head and away from screens doesn't help, I find watching nature documentaries is really interesting. I mean, the world is fascinating. The real world is fascinating. And for people like me who like to twist things into sci-fi and fantasy and, adjacent stuff, you don't have to twist the real world too far to have something really interesting.
I will try that. No, I'll let you know how that works out, because I'm having a horrible case of writer's block at the moment where...
Sorry.
Nah, I have some medical issues that I've been taking care of recently, and uh, just have not been able to, concentrate on writing a script.
Yeah. I also think reading, especially reading outside of what you've been reading, like if you've been reading a lot of comics, like go pick up a 1950s sci-fi, like a Heinlein or something, like, or, I don't know, a crazy Game of Thrones type fantasy book, like something that's a little different.
Actually, I actually have been trying that, because I'm actually just picked up The Magical Power of Not Giving a Fuck by Sarah Knight.
Nice.
Because the title intrigued me, and I listened to the audiobook in about an hour.
Yeah. I recently read Heinlein's, what's it called? Door Through Time? I've forgotten the name of it now, but it was like a very short, I think it was maybe intended to be sort of a YA-ish book, even though that wasn't really a thing yet at the time. And it was really, I was sort of fascinated by the ideas, which we've all seen a million times before since then. But just the execution portion of it was so not what I would do that it was very interesting. Sort of sometimes you just need to open up the pathways in there a little differently.
All right, I thank you for that advice, because I do have something I'm in the process of creating and working with an artist on, and that I definitely want to self-publish.
Sure.
But it's a little more in the realm of Brian Michael Bendis's first work.
Like Jinx and
Yeah, his pre-Jinx stuff is can't remember the title off my head, but it was the one he did that was very self-biographical.
Oh, yes, not Fortune and Glory. Is that it? No.
No, I think it was Fortune and Glory.
Is it Fortune and Glory?
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to, like I said, want to basically tell the story of how someone who's visually impaired is able to conquer things like stand-up comedy and podcasting, and you know really fictionalize it, and also say thank you to a couple people who that's a crazy idea.
Well, I think it sounds like an incredibly worthy project.
Congratulations on your Eisner.
Thank you.
Never thought I would see the day when Black Widow won, but your run is amazing.
Thank you. I sort of agree. I'm very glad we could get that for Black Widow. Yeah, I had an incredible team. Jordy and Elena were absolutely amazing, and then, to do what Elena does in those fight scenes is so time-consuming that we needed a little help, and we were so lucky to have Rafael de la Torre and Rafael Pimentel on. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, Rafael. I've never said it out loud before. But having him on that crazy issue 13 that was like a flashback issue, I was just really lucky. The work's only good as the weakest person on the team, and I'm very lucky in my collaborators.
Yes, and do I owe you a cut of the money I made on the Adam Hughes cover?
Good, I'm glad.
But what do you think in today's day and age makes Natasha tick?
Well, for me, in that book, I really wanted to change her, and I didn't see any way to fundamentally change her on the inside without really giving her something beautiful that she didn't even maybe know she wanted, and that she sort of fell in love with, and then showing her ultimate hero self, which is about sacrifice to save others, sacrifice to save her child. I will put this child somewhere safe with its father, and I will never get to be in its life, because that's the only way I can be sure to protect him from at least the insanity that is my life, which to me is just an extension of the way she protects everyone else. I think she's very deeply a hero, and I think she would love to be a sort of pristine Captain America, but that's not the life she was handed.
Yeah.
So she had to fight for something else, and I think, no shade on Cap, who we all love, but I think it makes her an even more interesting and amazing character that she had to find her way to it.
Yes, and now when you picked Bucky and Clint to be part of the supporting cast, what went into that process?
Well, I knew I wanted, her touchstones. I knew I wanted the guys who were really her best friends and who care about her the most in the world. And it's a bonus that she's dated both of them, and so they both also have sort of unresolved romantic feelings for her, and they're both sort of tragic love stories. I think the Bucky of it all is more tragic.
Yeah.
Because Clint moves on so much easier than anyone else. Clint will never be Bucky, I think it's Natasha, and so that's it. But so, who else to bring in for maximum drama and chaos than
That's true, and like I said,
the two guys who maybe would have liked to be in
a
her.
Daredevil cameo would be nice, though.
Yeah, I wish we'd had room for it, and then,
There's times I think Marvel overall likes to forget that relationship ever happened sometimes.
well, I don't. I did a lot of research, and I wanted to bring it up. If we'd kept going, I would have liked to bring it in, but yeah, it's just not meant to be.
Is there a reason why you think the book got the axe?
I think it just wasn't doing well enough financially. There were plans to do more. We were talking about relaunching it with a number one, which was incredibly generous of Marvel. I think they really loved it too, and they wanted to give it that chance. Some things were happening with my schedule where I couldn't stay exclusive with Marvel, and so because of that, it's sort of the relaunch didn't happen. We're still trying to maybe do a sort of cool one shot, or I'm sort of trying to turn it into more like a $10 graphic novel.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, but it's hard because everyone sort of moved on here, so I didn't want to do it without the regular team, and Elena's obviously very in demand, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I hope it's gonna happen, but
well, I think it's gonna be one of those 10 years from now, one of those runs that are discovered and be like, man, this Black Widow run is amazing. You know, so that's that. I, you also did that digital Jessica Jones series.
I did. I loved doing that book. It introduced me to Madia Diolis, who's my partner on another Substack book called The Cull. He's just an incredible talent. He does this very realistic, painted style work. It's very beautiful. We did get to do a little bit of Daredevil in there, just a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Jessica's one of the characters that comes the most naturally to me. She's grouchy.
She actually, I don't know if you had checked it out, but The Variants by Gail Simone is one of my favorite books on the stands right now.
Oh, that's nice. Gail's great. Phil's great. It's good. It's good.
Yeah. All right. Now I'm gonna bring up a thing that I would like you to convince me to pick up Captain Marvel, because I haven't picked the series up in the longest time, and Carol is not one of my most favorite characters in the Marvel universe.
Can I ask you why?
Civil War 2, Civil War.
That's what everyone says. I would say that, with no disrespect to those events or the writers, I think Carol got a really raw deal there, and that's not how I see the character at all. And so that's not what I'm writing, and that what we haven't been writing for 3.5, whatever years it is.
Yeah, and some of it is just. I guess I should just pick up the trades and start because I want to try it, because you brought Binary back, so I want to see how that's going.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's a pretty easy pick up and read. I think you could skip the first trade and the War of the Realms tie-in if you wanted to start like Falling Star. That's a very popular arc that starts with issue 8. So, if you wanted to circumvent your reading and trim it a little bit, 8 might be a good place to start.
Well, I'm paying someone to.
The last Avenger starts with Captain Marvel 12. That's another good hop-on place, although that's a weird one, but you might enjoy it. I think Carol's an incredible hero, and she has a lot of personal things that make her not a great hero, and she bumps into them all the time, and I love that about her. Kelly Sue DeConnick has an amazing quote about Carol Danvers that is, Captain America gets up because it's the right thing to do, and Carol Danvers gets up because fuck you. And I love that.
That sounds like something Kelly would say. Yeah.
It does, but I think have an incredible will to be who Carol is and get through what she's gotten through. And, you know, I can see why she got cast in the role she did in Civil War. It makes a certain amount of sense.
That it does. I mean,
She comes from a military background, and she's a rule follower like Cap. But I think that the mistake those events made is it completely erases how human and emotional and
yeah, I guess one of my favorite.
it's like she's very caring person. Like she cares so much, and I know they needed her to not for the events to work, but you know I don't think it's a completely fair characterization.
Yeah, I guess the last, like, one of my favorite Carol Danvers moments was Avengers Disassemble when she's slipping out at the Scarlet Witch, be like, you know what you did? You know what you did? You killed Hawkeye. You, you killed Scott Lang, and she's beating the ever-loving shit out of Wanda. And then you just see Wanda. There's only one book I actually had to force myself to read, but that's not your fault. It was because I was promised a Kitty Pryde and Colossus wedding, and I got stuck with Rogue and Gambit.
Yeah, they tricked you there.
Yeah, and I am the biggest Kitty Pryde. After Daredevil, Kitty Pryde is my second favorite character in the entire Marvel Universe.
She's pretty great, but you gotta admit the whole if you're having doubts about a wedding and you have a phasing power and someone tries to put a ring on your finger and you accidentally phase through it is pretty amazing storytelling, no?
Oh yeah, I like the story. I was just, alright, they're finally gonna do it.
I didn't get to read that organically because I knew it was coming, but I will tell you, but when they told me in the room that it was happening, I literally gasped. That's a great turn, and I don't even think it's a fabricated turn. I think those characters have been on a path
Oh yeah,
for
but
so long, but you know, there's a reason you don't do it after all those years. Like you have some doubts, maybe. And
yeah. However, finally you get to see more of, Rogue and Remy LeBeau finally get married. I thought was a nice move as well.
yeah, it was very fun. They knew people were going to be mad, but they also knew it would be exciting and people would be talking about it, and other people would be super happy. So you know, nobody's ever happy all the time, right?
Yeah, yeah. What was your first exposure to the X-Men, the animated series?
It was, yes.
All right, let's see. I actually got to do a book report in the 8th grade on Genesis X-Men 1.
That's awesome.
And there was the scene in there with Nightcrawler and Professor X. Actually, it was another thing that helped me, just accept my blindness.
Yeah.
There's a scene in there where Professor X is just like, "You want to be normal?" And Nightcrawler's just looking around. He's like, "After tonight, not really. I'd rather just be Kurt Wagner."
That's
And
amazing.
it helped me just say that blindness was my mutant power.
That's awesome.
You know,
I'm really glad I could do that for you.
yeah. So I guess I only have two more questions, and I'll thank you for sharing your time. Uh, how do you think we get more people with special needs into this wonderful world we call comic books?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think you're right that there are so many great examples that we see in comics, but you know, except for, I mean, Daredevil really is one of the few constants, isn't he?
See,
Because, you know,
Daredevil, Professor X is another one.
yeah, but Professor X often doesn't have a book, or you know, we go decade without him showing up in a book
Yeah,
sometimes.
that's
And
true.
you know, the same thing for Hawkeye. It's like not everyone remembers to deal with this, you know, with his issues.
And that's why I liked on the TV show they really made
Yeah,
that a vocal point, and that's why I'm also really super excited for Echo.
yeah, I loved it. Man, seeing Echo in this show has been so great, right? I'm very excited for that too.
And I also love the fact that they found a hearing impaired actress to portray the role as well.
It's incredible. Echo is in my first volume of Captain Marvel. It's a small role, but
I'll have to check it out. Well,
Yeah, I don't really have a great answer. I mean, I feel like
that's
there are
fine.
probably things comics can do on the inclusivity side beyond just making sure characters, are featured that are, that
The
are
one thing I love, and it, I don't, like, the San Diego Comic Con has the greatest special needs department of all the conventions.
oh yeah.
And they have that sitting area by the special needs, registration area where people with special needs could just sit. They need the rest.
Mhm.
And went to my first San Diego in '97, and I just realized, hey man, I'm not alone.
Oh wow.
And you know, uh, you know, comic books is the one constant in my life that no matter how bad if things feel from sometimes, it's like okay, it's you're blind, your eyes don't work. Big whoop. Everything else does.
Your ability to keep that perspective is truly inspirational. No hyperbole.
You know, I guess last do you have any conventions you'll be at to run out the rest of the year? Or
No, I don't really do signings. It's for a few reasons, one of which is to keep my harassment levels down.
you get harassed? That sucks.
Yep, I think any woman in comics gets harassed, I suspect. I'd be surprised to find one that doesn't have a story.
All right, I guess that works.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but
Yeah, that sucks, man.
it does suck, but it's like we're very lucky too, so try to keep perspective.
Exactly.
So I don't really do signings and stuff. I do hope maybe in the future, but so far, pandemic certainly slowed all that down.
Exactly.
So,
But I want to thank you for your entire body of work. I want to thank you for the entertainment, and I want to thank you for sharing your time with me tonight. This is one of the one of the interviews I've been wanting for quite some time. So thank you.
well, thank you, Adam. I had a great time coming on, and thanks for doing it at such a weird hour.
No, no. You know what it was? It was when you were because my initial timing was you said you had a doctor's appointment,
Yeah.
and I was like, I always have someone do all the StreamYard and everything, all the technical stuff for me. So let me just find a way so I could test myself to see if I could do this by myself in some way.
Oh wow.
So I proved to myself I could start to learn how to use some of the equipment and stretch my independence a little bit more. So thank you for that.
That's incredible. I'm happy to be your guinea pig. It worked out great.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go eat some pizza before I pass out.
You go and enjoy. You have a great night.
Take care.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.